All right, yo, what's going on, everybody? Good to see you again. It is Sunday, 3 p.m. here in New Vienna, Iowa, August 16th, 2020. Yeah, I got that right. How's everybody doing today? We're having a little bit of a sleepy day here. It's just one of those days where it's not too humid. In the sun, it's a little bit warm, and in the shade, it's just perfect, and there's a little bit of a breeze, so it's been great coffee drinking weather. It's been great lounging on the deck weather. We have not done very much today, and it's been great. Did go on a run this morning, and then tried to take my daughter out for a bike ride on the Heritage Trail, but I woke her up when I got back, and she was just like, I was like, hey, do you want to go for a bike ride? And she was like, no. So she just wanted to go back to bed. We had a bonfire last night, so I think the girls stayed up a little bit later than normal, and they were tired. So I was like, that's fine. You can just hang out and go to bed, keep sleeping. So that's kind of what we've been doing today. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Let's see who is all here. Yeah, CJ was here. I think he's got to get going, though. And we got Jonathan Fan, Jay Page, Frank LaHoulier, Steve. Let's see. We got Martha's here as well. Good to see you guys. Charles Ventura says, howdy, just went on my longest run ever, 15 miles, ran out of podcasts to listen to, so I swapped to an old random happy hour on Spotify. Oh, that's awesome. I hope it I don't think any of these days are particularly day specific. Sometimes are, I guess, but I hope it was still entertaining, even if it wasn't recent. So I'm glad that you found one that you could listen to. And then we have from Jay Page. She says, I know you are all avid runners. I'm a beginner, and I ran my first complete mile without stopping since a back injury. I already jeffed 2.3 miles and said, let's give it a go. Awesome. Very good. Good work. And then Frank says, what does jeffed means? And Steve says, jeffed is fun walking or run. Steve says run walking. I've never heard that term. Interesting, but very cool. Awesome. First run without stopping. I think, you know what? We have a longest run ever from Charles and Jay Page hitting the mile without stopping. So I think I have a surprise for you guys. Here we go. So it's, listen up. I think this is going to be the new cowbell sound or the new PR bell or the new victory sound. Here we go. Yeah. Did you guys like that one? So I thought I would get a new one. I was pretty happy with the last one, but I just felt like it didn't have the urgency and the energy that you might find when someone ringing a cowbell on the side of a race. And I thought, I got to figure out a way to do that. But it was just what am I going to do? All my cowbells are in Chicago and whatever. Yesterday, I was in the garage, my father-in-law's garage, and I was putting something away. And then I noticed hanging on the wall was an actual cowbell. It had a collar and everything attached to it, and it looked super old. So I just put my iPhone up, grabbed the bell, and just shook it like I was cheering for someone at a race. So hopefully that energy came through in the cowbell, and that's the new cowbell. Jay Page, congratulations. And who was it that did the 15 miles today? It was Charles Ventura. Congratulations, guys. Awesome. JC says, it sounds good. Last lapish. Yeah, I just need some cheering on energy. Martha says, this is a better cowbell. The other one was a little anemic. I agree. You guys were right on. Awesome. My mom's here from New Jersey. She hasn't been here the past couple of days. They went on a little vacation. They didn't have Wi-Fi there, so they're back. So welcome back, Mom. Hope you guys had a good trip. Leona Wong says, happy Sunday, everybody. Ines Dunbar says, he had a nice run down the river with Pip, that's his dog, and hopes everyone had a nice Sunday. Very cool. Very cool. Drake Holtree says, howdy from hot Texas. Well, yeah, hopefully it's not too hot down there, but yes, it's going to be that time of year where a lot of the nation is starting to get hot. We're actually pretty cool and balmy this week, which I think is really good for all those people in Cedar Rapids and that area, all the areas that have been hit and still don't have power back and don't have AC. So some cooler temps are very welcome. I was really worried that Friday night there was the potential for some pretty strong storms. Fortunately, Cedar Rapids didn't get any of that. So all those people who have holes in their roofs or may not have a roof didn't get water in there. So very excited. In terms of an update, everyone seems to be doing pretty well, all things considered. My brother-in-law, they were able to get an electrician to come over to inspect their power box, the part that connects from like the outside world to the house where like the meter and stuff is. The electric company said those all have to be inspected and like repaired to the extent necessary before they can turn power on for people. So it's a step. And they got 1 or 2 quotes for tree removal. They're getting another quote hopefully today. And then we'll see where it goes from there in terms of when the kinds of cranes and heavy machinery that are going to be needed to remove the tree are going to be able to get brought in. So we'll see what's going to happen with that. But everyone is safe and kind of doing their best to pick up the pieces. The big story around here, though, is kind of like the delayed response in Iowa to the disaster that rolled through here. Plus also the lack of national coverage, that there just doesn't seem to be any. So people are frustrated on a couple of levels here. So, but that's the story. So you guys all know what's going on. So, yeah, doing my best to keep you guys up to date. Rainrunner says hello from a very hot Portland. Yeah, I mean, in Portland, I think a lot of people don't have air conditioning, right, in their homes. So I feel like that's a part of the country where when it gets hot, and it does get hot, it's not known for being hot, but when it gets hot, it's very hot, especially because a lot of people don't have AC. So I hope you're doing well in Portland, staying cool. Pete G 1980 says, hi, Kofuzi. Good to see you, Pete. Martha says, Kofuzi, did you know that Pip, that's Innes Dunbar's dog, running buddy, did you know that Pip is from genuine Scottish sheep herding stock? She responds to sheep bells. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. I used to watch on TV. I used to watch a lot of TV back before I did a lot of running because I had time. But I used to be just enthralled with like the sheep herding competitions and like the dog competitions where like they would throw out like the duck decoy or something like that. Not just like throwing it off the edge of like the little like dock and you see how far the dog can jump. That's one thing. That's pretty fun. But they would have the other things when they would like launch like a decoy and the dog would have to go find it without being able to like see or even really smell it necessarily. And then the callers would use whistles and like commands and like hand motions to like direct the dog which way to go get the decoy and then bring it back. So I think it's amazing when people can communicate with animals on that kind of level. Very, very cool. And very cool that Pip responds to those kinds of bells. Awesome. I mean, I feel like we all need a video of that. I think that's something that we need to see. Let me know if you can do that, Innes. Yeah, Jeff Elliott says, we heard about it repeatedly in North Carolina, coverage on NPR. Well, very cool. I'm glad to hear that. And that makes sense that they would be picking up that story. They were saying that my father-in-law was watching one of the Sunday morning news channels this morning, saying that one of the local broadcasters was on, was it Meet the Press? Talking about like, everyone in the state is just confused as to why it isn't getting more coverage and like why, the response has been so slow. Probably those two things probably go hand in hand a little bit. Well, we're thinking that the slow response is related to the lack of coverage because it's just not getting picked up in the news. So, yeah, I'm glad to hear that at least it's getting some coverage. Not that I think that like, matter for the person that's sitting at home, doesn't have electricity, that probably doesn't matter. But at least it's something that like, it's I think it's important to recognize those kinds of things that are happening. Just like I know that there's forest fires happening in the West Coast, and I think there's more storms coming to the East Coast as well. So I mean, there's things happening, and I try to stay abreast of that kind of thing. Rainrunner says it's true about the air conditioning in Portland. Rainrunner says I'm very grateful to have it. Yeah, very cool. Ozenfant Backstros is here, which I think is one of the most I like saying that name, Ozenfant Backstros. Hopefully I'm saying it right, but I like saying that. Dave says, yo, from Wales. Good to see you, Dave. Let's see. Brian Cow says, hey, Kofuzi, how long are you keeping the hair? It's a really good question. I want to get rid of it. I did trim up the facial hair a little bit. I feel like I'm going to go with like a little bit of the handlebar for a while and then kind of keep some stubble kind of here. So I trim it with like the trimmer, like a blade attachment on it. so that the face stays a little bit more like, so at least some semblance of attempt at grooming. The hair, though, is just really out of control, and I don't know what to do about it other than just shave it all off. So we'll see. Yeah. Pete G 1980 says, "Hey Kofuzi, I had that problem with my Beats today where only one of them had charged. That's super frustrating. Super, super frustrating. There's two solutions to it. One is to do the hard reset. You can hold down the button on the case for 15 seconds and do a hard reset, and that usually helps. The other is people lick the bottom of them and then put them in, and you have to make sure you're they're really seated. It's something you shouldn't have to do for earbuds. Something you shouldn't have to do for any earbuds, and especially not earbuds that cost as much as those do." Nathan F says, "I ran a 15-minute 3-mile yesterday. Kofuzi, are you proud of me?" I'm super proud of you, man. Great work, Nathan. That's very, very fast. Insane. In his Dunbar says, "Both of Pip's parents are working dogs." So amazing. That's so cool. That's so cool. I just, I love it. Very cool. Mr. Random says, "Hello, team. I hope all had a great weekend and managed to enjoy your runs. The UK has cooled off just a bit, but the humidity still reminds me of New York City." Very cool. I didn't know you guys were getting humid this weekend, but at least it's cooling off. That makes a big difference. Fani Teja Kambampati says, "Hey Kofuzi, I'm a beginner and I struggle to be motivated to run daily. Could you please suggest some hacks?" Sorry for the audience for spamming. No problem. As I noticed, everyone here are pro runners. Thank you. Well, Pani, or Fani, I'm not sure how to say it. I think it's Pani. Pani, everyone here is not pro runners. We're all just regular people, just hanging out and talking. So you're certainly welcome here. Don't feel like you're spamming. Some hacks to be motivated to get out there daily. One of the things I like to do is I like to put it as early in my day as possible. For me, the later in the day something like running gets, the easier it is to say, you know what? It's just not going to fit in the schedule today. I don't feel it. Maybe it is a good day to take a rest day. All those things come into mind. So I try to put it as early in the day as possible, first thing in the day. I treat it like a surgeon does. Surgeons always do the most difficult, most complicated surgeries first when everyone's fresh. So that's kind of the thing that I like to do. So that's one of the things. The other thing I could think of is try a different route. If you run with music, try something completely different to listen to. Try a podcast, try an audiobook, that kind of thing. So just switch it up. Switch either the literal scenery or the audio or the internal scenery as well. So some of those things you can try. All right. Let's see. Martha says, "Kofuzi, you were right about whistles. I was joking about sheep bells because of the cowbells, but we can ask Inez if sheep have bells there." Yeah, do sheep wear bells? I'm not sure. JC said, "ABC covered it pretty well last night." Yeah, I think my in-laws like to watch KCRG. Is KCRG an ABC affiliate? I think it is. And then they watch, it usually has David Weir on it, but there's been a different guy. I think it's World News Tonight. Yeah, so we were pretty happy to see it's getting some coverage. But, it happened last Monday. So, that's, I think, the main thing that people are kind of surprised by. They feel slighted, I think. But it's good to see that it is getting the national coverage. New York Times is starting to pick it up a little bit. They've been running stories on it from the beginning, but it started out as this is a storm that hit 700 miles of the U.S. to now having much more narrow focus to people that haven't had power for 5 days and still won't have it for much longer. So, yeah. Meadow 37 says, "New sub, are you from Iowa?" I'm not from Iowa. We're spending the summer here. My in-laws and my wife is from here, so we're at my in-laws' house. So that's where we are for the summer. Jops Mangulabdan says, "Congrats to Chepta guy." Yeah, that 12:35 is pretty insane. I was watching on Twitter though. Ben Barrows was tweeting about it, and he was kind of annoyed by it because it had an electronic pacer. And I felt like that is the most Ben Barrows thing to be annoyed about. I love that guy. But it's kind of funny that he's upset about it. He wouldn't think it was funny that I think it's funny. I think it's amusing. It's a very Ben thing to be upset about. M. Janthra Bremer says, "Hello from a burb from Chicago. Haven't watched your video for a while. Don't you live in Chi-Town anymore?" That's connected to the other question about being from Iowa. We haven't been there since June 1st. So we will go back at some point. Our condo's still there. My business is still there. But we'll have to figure that out at some point. But I'm not in a rush to do that. Things are really comfortable here in Iowa. Summers are great here. We would have been spending a lot of time here anyway. Now we're just spending a little more. Let's see. What else we got here today? Chen Zhao says, I tried out 9 miles of my Rincon for the first time yesterday. I got a blister. Oh, that's a bummer. Sorry to hear that. The Rincon were extremely tight. It was a very narrow shoe, which makes sense for what it was intended to be used for a speed day shoe. But yeah, it was a tight fit for sure. I haven't tried the Rincon 2, but I understand it's supposed to be a minor upper update. But I get this. I have a feeling it's probably not a major change. Is filling us in on the sheep situation where he is, and says that there's no bells on the sheep there, and the collies work by sheepdog whistles, so they can give really varied sounds, and the dogs learn all the different sounds. So cool. I love that kind of thing. Let's see. Jobsman Galabnan says, hello from Philippines, 4 a.m., and it's a recovery run day. Awesome. Hopefully you're not doing your recovery run at 4 a.m., but glad to see you tuning in and glad to have you here. It's fine if you are. If that's when you got to get it in, great. But, 4 a.m. is just really early. I haven't been waking up at 4 a.m. And I was just thinking about it yesterday that, once the girls start getting to be, school time again, their school is going to be all virtual. I'll be kind of the proctor and also the preschool teacher. But I was thinking, you know what, we're going to have to start getting on a regular schedule again. I'm going to have to start getting up earlier again so that way I can get everything done so I can spend more time with them. I've been letting some of my more of my YouTube time and working on videos kind of bleed into the day because they've been spending time just playing and just being outside and doing summary stuff. So I can kind of they're getting old enough where I can kind of watch them play while I do other things. But it's once it comes to school time, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to have to start getting up at 4 a.m. again pretty soon. Jody Run's coming in with some tips as well. To get motivated, make sure you do something every day, even if it's just a 30-minute walk, as it then becomes a habit just to get out and exercise. That's a great tip, too. That's a really great tip. I like to say that habits are hard to break, good or bad. And so make good habits, My cow says, one good hack is to not wait for motivation and just force yourself to do it, even if you're not motivated. I agree with that. That's good. That's a good one. Ricardo Gadagiri's here. He says, yo, happy Sunday and have a good week. Awesome. Very cool. Metal37 says, your in-laws must be happy. I hope that they are. I feel like, my family, wherever we go, we tend to just kind of explode and spread out everywhere. So our stuff is all over. We've taken over their house. I'm sure grandma and grandpa love spending a lot more time with their daughter and the grandkids and stuff. But, I think that they're used to living just as much as they love having everyone back. And one of the highlights of my mother-in-law's year is when everyone comes back for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter. We usually celebrate it a little bit early to have a big family Easter. And so, and then other times of the year too that we can. And so she lives for that. But I also feel like, they spend a lot of their time just the two of them and the dog. And we're a lot. We're 4 extra people and a dog who is kind of a curmudgeon. So it's I know it's got to be a lot. Hopefully in the plus minus, they're enjoying it. I know we are enjoying it. We're loving being here. And I like the idea of us being a family of 6, especially in a, kind of an uncertain time like this. I think it's good to be close to family. We got my wife's sister-in-law lives a couple doors down the street as well. And so, and then we got the uncles in Guttenberg. There's lots of family here. And so it's just good to have everyone around. So I think, there's differences and I'm sure we're getting on their nerves a whole bunch, but I think on the overall, I think it's great. I like it. Shannon, good to see you. She says, hey, Kofuzi and friends, I spent 2 hours cutting my grass, pitched my Ghost 10s, and now cutting into Ultra Paradigms, a stability shoe that just did not work for me. All right. Hopefully it works. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, does everyone mow in their old running shoes? Is that what happens? I don't know. I've been using my Mizunos. They're great for that. I don't even think I could really run in those because I've just been trashing them. But I love having them, and they're great for all the work that I've been putting in them. Let's see. Jared Crano says, "Hey everyone, just joined. Nice new bike co." Yeah, I made it. So I took update on the bike story. So I took the new bike out for a ride after the live stream yesterday, and it worked fine. And at first I was riding down the hill on the dirt road, and I was like, oh, I don't know. This wheel seems really squirrely. I'm not sure if this is right. Something's wrong with this bike. I was like, it's a little bit on the small side for me. I think I'm a little bit too tall for it, but a bike's a bike. Well, this bike is a bike. And so, that's kind of how I was feeling about it. And I was like, I'm a little bit scared of it. And then I got to, pavement, and it was fine. And I was like, oh, okay. It was just because I was on, gravel and dirt. And so I don't have a lot of experience riding on that. So it's fine. It's fine. The bike works great. My butt is sore today. So, all is right, I think. The thing is, everything is how it's supposed to be at this point. Before I did order a pair of padded bicycle shorts, but they're in Chicago because I'd gotten them to ride the spin bike a little bit more. And then I ended up not really getting a chance to really test them out. And then I was like, what am I going to need the padded bike shorts for? When I packed for the summer. Now I kind of wish I had them. I haven't checked on Amazon, but it took me over a month to get those because everyone was buying padded bike shorts and there was just no inventory at the time. This would have been back in late March. So it took me a month to get them. And so I was like, now I really wish I had them here. Brian Cow says, how are my parents holding up? I think they're doing well. They do see my sister from time to time. I have a sense, my mom's here. She can chime in if she wants, but she usually just kind of likes to listen. But I think that my suspicion is that they're a little bit bored. And so, it's one of those things where, I wish I could have everyone in one place. But, they have their life over there on the East Coast and we're over here over 1,000 miles away. So it's far, but, if things really hit the fan again, I'd certainly think about another way of kind of reshuffling if the situation gets to that. Hopefully it won't get to that, but you kind of have to make those, at least loosely start thinking about those kinds of things, I think, these days. Stevie76 says, school starts tomorrow for his kids. Getting all the tech ready, but can't compete with a family friend who has a double monitor set up for his kids. Oh, that's pretty funny. I was thinking about when we came over here and we had left Chicago for the summer. I was like, do I need to bring some monitors? I was like, I can grab a couple from work, something like that, because we have tons of them. And I was like, what am I going to need that for? And so now I'm kind of wishing that I had, but we're going to convert one of the rooms in here to a one room schoolhouse. So so we'll be getting that ready. CPS virtual school doesn't start till the week of Labor Day, so it'll be that Tuesday. So we still have a little bit more time. A lot of the schools around here were supposed to have started last Thursday, 3 days ago, but many of them had shifted and delayed another 2 weeks. And then with the storm that came through, some of them, like Cedar Rapids schools, don't have a timetable for when they're going to resume because the buildings physically have damage. And even if they wanted to go virtual, the students don't have power. So, things are in flux. And it kind of makes you, looking back at it in retrospect, people, I guess, couldn't have known that a giant storm was going to come through. But all, the fighting people had done to make sure that school got started, August 16th or August 14th or whatever the day, August 14th or 13th, whatever the day was supposed to be. Seems like, it was a lot of yelling at each other for nothing, it seems. Not that yelling at each other for a good result is always either a good thing either. It was just a lot of yelling at each other. People are doing that. Gavin Braden says, "Hey Mike, you are going to have to add a section in future shoe reviews for suitability towards certain garden chores. Mizuno's good for lawn mowing, not good for landscaping." Oh, okay, all right. I kind of like that. Yeah, I kind of like parodying and lampooning myself, so I think that can definitely work. All right. Let's see. JC says, today having trouble with Garmin watch connecting to phone via Bluetooth. Anyone else having this issue? Ooh. Let's see. I don't know if anyone else is having that problem. I haven't heard much about it other than from you guys here. But I feel like, it's not the kind of thing that I would necessarily expect to hear a lot about on social media. But I'm hearing from you guys that there are still intermittent problems. But JC, maybe just a restart on your watch will do it. Because sometimes I have trouble getting my Polar watches or an Apple Watch. Well, it doesn't happen as much with the Apple Watch. Because I think with the Wi-Fi connection, the tethering to the phone is stronger. But with Garmin's, Polars, and Suntos, I always had that where every once in a while you just got to restart your watch for some reason. Neat Penguin asks, do you guys use some of your running shoes for other sports? Basketball, squash, floorball, or dedicated shoes for specific sports? I wouldn't know. I don't really do any other sports. Yeah, I don't do any other sports. I guess I ride bike, or I cycle now, I could say. But I don't know. I wear my running shoes for that. I wear the Mizunos. They're good for lots of things. Chris Dyke says, "Hey folks, got caught up watching Godfather 2. Forgot about the stream." Awesome. Very cool. Let's see. Sean Marshall says, "I teach high school and we were supposed to start last week, but we are starting as hybrid format after Labor Day. Who knows how it'll work." Yeah, what's interesting is I was listening to an interview with Malcolm Gladwell, the writer, and who is an avid runner himself. Although I think he's been spending a lot of time on his bike lately. But he was two things were really notable about that. This was an interview from maybe late March, early April, so very early on in kind of everything happening, at least early on from the U.S. perspective. And he was talking about how he used to be a reporter for the Washington Post, which I didn't know that. I knew he had some sort of background in journalism and other professional writing before he became an author and a writer of books. I just didn't know what. So he mentioned he used to be a writer for the Washington Post, and he was one of his big things in his career as a journalist was covering the AIDS epidemic when it first kind of came out, when we first became aware of it, and what the state governmental and scientific responses to it were. And at the time, the main person in charge from the government level was Dr. Fauci. And so Malcolm Gladwell has known of and worked with Dr. Fauci, not worked with, I guess interfaced with, from a journalistic perspective, with Dr. Fauci since the AIDS epidemic, which I knew he was involved in that, but to hear Malcolm Gladwell talk about it was interesting because he was another interesting fact. Dr. Fauci is an avid runner himself. So to see these two avid runners communicating with each other, I think is interesting. But he was saying that Dr. Fauci seemed just as old as he does now back then, which was a while ago. But he was also the same kind of guru and just very level-headed and a source of expertise and reasonableness. And so yeah, that was interesting. And the other thing that he was talking about is he was even talking about back then kind of who knows how things are going to go once everything has to start opening up. And he's and for a period of time, we're going to have to find a way to kind of live with it. And he's it may be a question of not if we can stop it, but we are he's everyone probably is going to get it. But it's a matter of whether our healthcare system can support us. And what are we doing in the time when we're bending the curve to prepare for when, he's the lockdowns don't stop people from getting it. It just changes when they get it and how ready the government is and infrastructure is to respond to it. So I mean, it's not a novel idea, not an idea that I haven't heard yet, but it was just interesting to hear the way that he phrased it and was thinking about it. It didn't seem as like fatalistic or like, and therefore we shouldn't have to wear masks and we can go to Sturgis and that kind of thing. And it wasn't like that perspective either. So it's interesting to hear like that. So I don't know. I forget what I was talking about where I started rambling about that, but yeah, I was just listening to that this morning. Meadow37 asks a question, says, do you want your kids to be runners? I mean, I don't push it, but they seem to gravitate towards it. I think because they see me do it or they know that I do it. I would rather them play like other team sports or other activities that are not just running. If they want to do just running, that's fine, and I'll help them. But or I'll help support their coaches and make sure that they're doing what the coach is asking them to do. I don't want to be an interloper or interfere, So whatever kind of, as long as it's not hurtful, or going to be bad for the kid's health, and their growth and development. But I'll help them in that sense if they want to be runners. But I'd rather they play other, team sports. If they want to get into bicycling or swimming, I mean, swimming's kind of the same, and so is bicycling. But running, I just think it is hard on the joints, and so I'd rather them try other things too. And then if they come to running later, cool. Martha says the restart helped the first time after her Garmin outage, when the watch still didn't want to sync with the phone. Yeah. So there you go. Oh, I remember why I started getting off on, or started talking on Malcolm Gladwell and Fauci is because of Sean Marshall's question, because he's a high school teacher. Sean Marshall says, can someone brief me on the SL20 inside joke? I gather it's under the radar budget daily trainer you all dig. Always gets mentioned and goes over my head. Yeah, so I think everyone's responded to it, but I'll mention it on for people listening and can't read the comments. But it's a shoe that I just think people aren't talking about enough, and I've raved and ranted about it in a good way. When you say rant and rave, you never think of the rant as being bad. But when you say rave and rant, the rant part sounds like it's an angry rant. But anyway, I've been gushing over how much I like the shoe, and it seems to get more versatile the more I run in it, and it's just ridiculously cheap for some reason. It's like they're trying to dump the shoe, even though it's a real gem. And then it got to the point where every day someone might ask a question like, what do you recommend for this, or what are some good options for that, and the SL20 would just get mentioned every single day. And so it became kind of like a word of the day inside joke where I was like, no one mentioned SL20s today. And so we kind of thought we'd have a swear jar or an SL20 jar for it. I haven't quite figured out the right sound effect for that. I think the thing to do is I might try to get a sound clip of the Pee Wee Herman, Pee Wee's Playhouse, the word of the day. And then Rosie would go beeper, 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 right? There was all that. I think I need something like that for the SL20. So that's what that is. It's just kind of a word of the day. But CV76 is wondering if Fauci's on Strava. I don't know. I haven't looked for it. I think I probably looked for it at some point, because when I read an article, it might have been a Washington Post article, probably written by Malcolm Gladwell. But I remember reading an old article on Fauci, and it said when he was working on the AIDS epidemic, he was working 60, 70-hour weeks trying to figure out this thing, and also still running 3 to 5 miles a day. And he was in his 50s or 60s or something like that. I don't know how old he is now, but whenever, I guess 20 years from now, or 30 years, has it been that long? Anyway, so he was not a younger runner, but now I'm oh, that's not that much older than I am. Yeah, so I think that's, and when I read that article, I think that's when I looked him up, and I don't think I found him. But Malcolm Gladwell is on Strava, and that's how I know he's bicycling now. Jacob Lee says, I started running 2 months ago and finished my first 5K 2 weeks ago. Awesome. Doing interval running and walking. I've been struggling to push myself to run continuously for longer periods of time. Any tips? Run slower. That's it. Just run slower, because when you're trying to run for your longer period of time or for that longer distance, you shouldn't care about the pace. The point of the run is to run the longer amount of time or the longer distance. So accomplish that. If you make it really easy by going really slow, great. The next time, go a little bit faster. So like if you're having a hard time hitting that and keeping that continuity, really slow it down. So, that's the tip. I usually recommend to people, if you're not already, listen to a podcast or an audiobook, something that is more conversational that you can kind of like, ease into your run a little bit that way just by listening to the conversation. All right, let's see. Ricky Winterborn says, do you have any ways of breaking in new shoes before running in them, or do you just go straight out the door? I usually go straight out the door. My thinking of that, or my opinion on it, is it's 2020. We shouldn't have to break in shoes anymore. But I know that there are still shoes out there that need break in. Generally, they are the ones with a ton of rubber on the outsole. But they're, like the Bondi tends to need some break in as well. But other shoes change over time. I don't necessarily consider that a break in kind of thing. But it's not like a baseball mitt where you have to like rub it in oil, put like a tennis ball or a softball in it, wrap it with a rubber band and sleep on, put it underneath your mattress and sleep on it. It's not like that kind of thing where there's not stuff to do to them to really break them in. And it's not like a baseball where you got to like rub some of the gloss off it or whatever. You should just be able to pick them up and run with some exceptions. Peter Ota says, any book recommendations? I don't read books, I listen to them. So I think that I get somewhat of a different experience because of that. But some of the book that I've particularly enjoyed listening to was David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. That one is great. Adarnan Finn's books, Running with the Kenyans or Way of the Runner. Those are the two of his that I've listened to, and those were very good books to listen to. I also enjoyed Dina Castor's book quite a bit. So those are a couple for you. Sean Marshall says, I'm in the market for figuring out some hydration solutions for my plus 6 mile runs, noticing some performance deterioration after that mark. And so Rain Runner has a good follow-up, like container-wise or like hydration tablets-wise. And so let's see if there's any update. Yeah, Sean Marshall says, like thinking belt or handheld, but not sure the pros and cons. Okay, so like for that, I really like my Flip Belt water bottle. It holds a little bit more than 10 ounces, and that usually is good enough for me for anything up to an hour and a half outside in the summertime. If it's really hot, it would last me about an hour, but that's usually what I like. A lot of people, I think at that size, really like the handheld ones, the kind that were like you hold onto the bottle, but it's got a strap on the outside, so you don't have to like literally squeeze it the entire time. So those are pretty popular, and those hold anywhere between like 10 and they can go up to like 14, 16 ounces. So I feel like that's like a really good amount to do. Rain Runner likes her Nathan handheld. Yeah. Reed Morris says, in this heat, I just feel like death no matter the hydration. That's funny. Leona Wong says, YouTube has good haircutting tutorials. Yeah, it's something that I have not looked into yet. There was a time where I used to cut my hair by just like grabbing the hair, and anything that stuck out over my fingers, I would just cut. And then I would use clippers to try and like buzz myself and do a little bit of a fade into the rest of the hair. I never had very good haircuts during that time, but it got the job done. But yeah, I've sliced like the tops of my knuckles doing that a couple of times too, so I kind of stopped doing it after a while. So I haven't cut my own hair probably since 2000. I want to say 2002, maybe 2001 was the last time I did that. Yeah, so it's been about 19 years since I gave myself a haircut. All right, let's see. Let's get one more, and then I think we'll call it for the day. Let's see. Sean Marshall says, I had pizza for dinner last night, and he can highly recommend DiGiorno hand tossed out of the frozen options. And then Rainrunner says, I had pizza last night too. We had pizza 2 nights in a row this week, and not just because of like leftover situation. So we had pizza Friday night because my wife just wanted to get pizza, so we had pizza Friday night. And then Saturday, my brother-in-law, the one that hasn't had the power, they did want to come up and visit, and so they wanted to drop off a birthday present for the baby. They missed the birthday, which was understandable since they didn't have like electricity and stuff. But they still like managed to like get her presents and like wrap them and stuff much better than I wrapped any of her presents. But they said, and we're like, dude, just don't worry about it. You got a lot going on. And he was like, no, we insist because it helps take our mind off of things for a little bit. So they did that, and they came up, and we had a socially distanced little kind of like pizza party outside. And we had pizza again because my wife's plan was then, because she's been talking about sending them with Happy Joe's Pizza home, was then like send all the extra pizza home. So she bought way more than we needed, which she always does anyway. And then she was going to send it home, but they didn't take it. So now we've got tons of pizza, which is a fantastic problem to have. I had pizza for breakfast today. So I think I've had pizza like 4 out of the last 6 meals. It's been great. It's been great. Speaking of which, I'm kind of hungry. I might go have some more pizza right now. All right. I think I'll leave it there for today, everybody. Tomorrow's video, I think, is going to be Ultra Superior 4.5 versus the Hoka Torrent 2. 2 of like my favorite shoes for the summer for running in all these dirt roads around here. And then we'll do another live stream. Tomorrow's going to be Monday, so we'll have Monday mukbang. I think I'm going to try and do walking tacos. The question is, can I get the little Doritos bag that I need to get it done? If I can do that, we'll do that for the Monday mukbang. So tune in tomorrow. It'll be a lot of fun. In the meantime, hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and thank you very much.